At dinner, she told me, "My ex wants me back. Give me a reason to stay." The words didn't just land, they echoed. The soft clink of cutlery around us, the low hum of conversations, the warm glow of the restaurant lights. Everything suddenly felt distant, like I was watching my own life from across the room. She sat there calm, almost curious, as if I were being interviewed for a role I didn't know I'd applied for. I studied her face, the same one that once looked at me like I was enough. Now it held a quiet challenge. Her phone lay face up beside her plate. A message preview blinked on the screen. His name, again. I didn't ask questions. I didn't argue. I didn't compete. Instead, I leaned back in my chair, letting the silence stretch just long enough to make her uncomfortable. Then I gave a small, almost polite smile. Why would I need to? The shift in her expression was subtle, but real. Confusion first, then something sharper. I placed my napkin beside my untouched plate, signaled the waiter, and covered my half of the bill. No drama, no scene, just an ending she didn't expect. And as I walked out, I realized something. This wasn't where I lost her. This was where I chose not to fight for someone who already left. I've always been the kind of man people assume will stay, not because I lack options, but because I rarely make noise when I'm disappointed. I listen longer than I should. I forgive faster than I should. And for a long time, I mistook that patience for strength. She fit into that pattern almost perfectly. We met during a time when my life was finally steady, career in place, routines built, no chaos left to chase. She, on the other hand, carried storms with her. Not loud ones, quiet, unfinished ones. Stories about her ex slipped into conversations like background music, subtle, but constant. At first, I thought it was honesty. Then I realized it was attachment. I noticed the small things early, the way she'd compare without realizing, the way my efforts felt expected instead of appreciated, the way I was always almost enough. Friends would joke that I was too calm, that I let things slide. They didn't understand. It wasn't that I didn't see the signs. I saw all of them. I just believed for a while that consistency could outlast confusion, that if I stayed steady, she would eventually choose peace over history. But people don't choose what feels right. They choose what feels familiar, and I was never the chaos she was used to chasing. It didn't happen all at once. It never does. It was in the pauses, those small, almost invisible fractures. She'd check her phone mid-conversation, her thumb hovering just a second too long before locking the screen. Sometimes she'd smile at something she wouldn't share, then look up at me like she was returning from somewhere I wasn't invited to. "Just a friend," she'd say lightly, already moving on. I stopped asking. There were other moments, quieter, sharper, like when I planned an evening, nothing extravagant, just thoughtful. Her favorite place, her favorite table. She arrived 10 minutes late, glanced around and said, almost absent-mindedly, "He used to bring me here too." Weird. Not cruel, not intentional, but precise enough to land. Or the way she'd compare without naming it a comparison. "You're so stable," she once said, stirring her drink slowly, eyes unfocused. "It's different." Different didn't sound like a compliment. I began noticing how often I adjusted, my tone, my timing, my expectations, while she remained unchanged. Like I was the one quietly negotiating for space in a relationship. That was supposed to be mine too. And the strange part? She never raised her voice, never crossed a clear line. She just kept leaning away, 1 inch at a time, until I realized I was the only one still leaning in. The turning point wasn't loud. It didn't come with a fight or a slammed door. It came a few days after that dinner. A quiet Sunday evening, rain tapping softly against the windows. The kind of weather that usually made her reach for me without thinking. This time she sat across from me on the couch, scrolling again, always scrolling. Her phone buzzed. She didn't hide it. Didn't need to. I saw the name, the same one, the same pattern. But this time I didn't feel jealousy or anger. Just clarity. She smiled, small, instinctive, unguarded, not at me. And in that exact moment something settled inside me. Not broke, settled, like a final piece clicking into place. It wasn't about him. It was about her never really leaving him. And me, pretending she had. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and poured myself a glass of water. My hands were steady, my thoughts even steadier. When I came back, she glanced up briefly. "You okay?" Her voice was casual, unconcerned. That's when I knew. I wasn't losing her. I had been holding on to someone who was already gone. And the realization didn't hurt the way I expected. It felt clean, like finally telling the truth after rehearsing lies for too long. I didn't confront her. There was nothing left to argue. Instead, I got precise. I work in operations, contracts, timelines, contingencies. I'm used to spotting weak structures before they collapse. This was no different. I just hadn't applied that same discipline to my personal life, so I did what I do best. I reviewed everything. The lease was in my name. Utilities, too. Most of what filled the apartment, furniture, appliances, even the small things she'd grown comfortable with, were things I had chosen, paid for and maintained. Not out of control, but out of clarity, I made quiet calls, updated access codes, separated shared accounts. Nothing dramatic, nothing vindictive, just clean boundaries. Documented and final. Then I started removing myself in ways she wouldn't notice immediately. Fewer messages, shorter replies, no reminders, no planning, no emotional cushioning. I stopped anticipating her needs, stopped filling the silence she left behind. At the same time, I focused forward, picked up projects I'd delayed, reconnected with people I'd drifted from, rebuilt routines that didn't include her absence as a placeholder. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was making sure that when the moment came, there would be nothing left for her to stand on except her own choices. No noise, no warning, just a structure quietly, no longer supporting her. The moment came without announcement. She returned one evening, rain still clinging to her coat. Her expression tired in that familiar way, like she expected the space to reset her. The apartment was warm, light soft, everything exactly where it should be. Except it wasn't. Her key didn't work. I watched through the peephole as she tried again. Slower this time, then knocked. 2 quick taps, followed by a pause. When I opened the door, I didn't step aside. Just enough space for a conversation. "I think something's wrong with the lock," she said, forcing a small laugh, eyes searching mine for reassurance that used to come automatically. "It's not the lock," I replied, calm. The hallway light caught the shift in her face. Confusion first, then realization creeping in like a shadow she couldn't outrun. "I packed your things," I added, nodding toward the neatly arranged boxes just inside the door. Not thrown together, organized, labeled. Respected, but finished. She stepped forward instinctively, then stopped when I didn't move. That was new. That was the part she hadn't calculated. "I came back," she said softly, as if that alone should change the outcome. "I know," I answered, and for the first time, I didn't make space for her return. I just held the door, steady, controlled, waiting for her to understand that this time, there was nowhere left to come back to. Word spread the way it always does, quietly at first, then all at once. Her friends reached out, not to me directly, but through mutual circles. I heard the softened versions of the story, how I'd changed, how I'd become distant, how she hadn't expected things to end so cleanly. There was confusion in their voices, not outrage. No one could point to a scene, a betrayal, a moment where I had clearly crossed a line. That was the part that unsettled them, because there was nothing to defend against. She came back once more, this time without tears. Just questions, standing a little further from the door, as if she already understood the distance wasn't physical anymore. "You didn't even fight for us," she said. I looked at her, not cold, not angry, just certain. "I did," I replied. "You just weren't looking when it mattered." She didn't argue after that. And slowly, even the people who had taken her side began to understand. Not through explanations, but through patterns. How quickly she slipped back into old habits. How easily history repeated itself. As for me, nothing dramatic changed on the outside. Same routines, same spaces. But internally the shift was permanent, because this wasn't about losing someone. It was about finally refusing to be an option in my own life. And that's why it matters. Because sometimes the real cost isn't heartbreak. It's how long you agree to live without being chosen. In the weeks that followed, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt earned. Mornings became simpler. No second-guessing tone in a message. No reading between lines that were never meant to include me. I stopped carrying conversations in my head that I would never have out loud. The space she left behind didn't echo anymore. It settled. I started noticing things I had ignored before, how calm feels when it isn't something you have to fight to maintain, how clarity removes the need for closure. There was no dramatic healing moment, no sudden breakthrough, just consistency. I kept showing up for my own life the way I once showed up for hers. Work sharpened, friendships deepened. Even the quiet evenings felt different, not like waiting, but like living. I don't hate her. That would mean she still takes up space I've already reclaimed. What I feel instead is something far more useful. Detachment, because the truth is she didn't lose me that night at the door. She lost me slowly. Every time she chose uncertainty over presence, and I finally chose not to compete with it. And as I locked that door for the last time, I understood something I won't forget. The strongest revenge isn't making someone regret losing you. It's becoming someone who never needed them to stay.